Hello everyone, I'm Arjun. I am 25 years old, and I come from India. Just a few months ago, I could not speak even one full sentence in English. I failed, I felt ashamed, and I almost gave up on my dreams. But today I can share my journey with you in English. Remember this, English is not only about grammar or words, it is about changing your life. If I can do it, you can too. Don't waste your time. Start today. Practice every day. Your future is waiting. Remember, your time is your life. Use it. Don't waste it. So sit back, listen carefully, and let's make English your path to success. I still remember the first time I tried to speak English in public. My voice was shaking. My hands were cold. I wanted to disappear. In my city, many young people could already speak good English. They sounded smart, confident, and ready for the future. Whenever they spoke, people looked at them with respect. They could walk into a room and everyone listened. But me, I could not even order food in English. I opened my mouth, but the words broke into pieces. It felt like trying to catch water with my hands. Everything slipped away. People smiled at me, but it was not a kind smile. It was the smile of pity. That smile cut deeper than a knife. That evening I walked home alone. The streets felt darker than usual. The air felt heavy. When I reached my small room, I dropped onto the bed and cried. Not the silent tears you can hide, but the kind that shake your whole body. I stared at the ceiling and whispered to myself, why me? Why can't I do it? But then, somewhere deep inside, another voice spoke. If you don't change, you will stay the same forever. That voice gave me strength. The hidden pain of struggle. The hardest part of learning English was not grammar. It was not vocabulary. It was not pronunciation. The hardest part was the shame. Every mistake felt like a mirror showing me how small I was. I felt invisible, weak, and trapped inside my own silence. Struggle is invisible to others. People only see when you succeed. They don't see the nights you spend practicing alone, the mornings you wake up tired but keep pushing, or the times you swallow your pride when people laugh. I remember watching my friends laugh with foreign tourists. They shared jokes, stories, and even exchanged phone numbers. I stood nearby, pretending not to care, but inside I was screaming, that should be me. I want that freedom. This pain was like fire. At first, it burned me, but slowly, it started to fuel me. Lessons from the greats. When I think about struggle, I remember Oprah Winfrey. She was born into poverty in Mississippi. As a child, she faced abuse, racism, and rejection. When she tried to speak, people told her she was not good enough. But Oprah turned pain into power. She used her voice to rise above the shame. Today, she is one of the most powerful voices in the world. Or Barack Obama, the first African-American president of the United States. As a young man, he struggled with identity and belonging. When he spoke, people sometimes doubted him. But he trained his voice, sharpened his words, and built courage through struggle. When he finally stood on the stage in 2008 and said, "Yes, we can," millions believed him, because his struggle was real. Their stories remind me, struggle is not the end. It is the beginning. My own battle. Every time I tried to speak English, my chest tightened. It felt like carrying a heavy stone inside me. But deep down, I knew this was a battle I could not run from. If I gave up, I would remain the same boy, stuck in the same room, with the same regrets. So I faced my reflection in the mirror. My eyes were tired, but I whispered, "Arjun, you cannot quit. Your dream is bigger than your fear. From that day, I started to see struggle differently. It was no longer my enemy. It was my teacher. Each mistake taught me something. Each failure built my patience. Each laugh from others made my skin thicker. A message for you. Maybe you are like me. Maybe you are afraid to speak English because people will laugh. Maybe your voice shakes, your hands sweat, and your mind goes blank. Let me tell you this. You are not alone. Struggle is part of the journey. Think of Steve Jobs. Before he became the man who changed the world with Apple, he was rejected from his own company. Imagine that, being kicked out of the company you created. But instead of giving up, he used that struggle to fuel his comeback. Years later, he returned stronger and built the iPhone. If he had quit, the world would not have the technology we use today. Your English struggle is the same. Every mistake is shaping you. Every painful moment is preparing you. The truth about struggle. Here is the truth. Struggle feels like punishment, but it is actually preparation. It is preparing your mind to be patient. It is preparing your heart to be brave. It is preparing your soul to keep going, even when nobody believes in you. The struggle is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of growth. If you feel pain, it means you are moving forward. That day, when I cried alone in my room, I thought I was weak. But looking back now, I see it clearly. That was the day I began. Because every great journey starts with one thing: struggle. The next morning after my tears, I made a decision. No more waiting. No more excuses. I went to a small shop near my house and bought a notebook. It cost almost nothing, but to me it felt like the most powerful tool in the world. On the first page, I wrote in big, bold letters, "I will speak English." That sentence was my contract with myself. Beginning small. I didn't start with long sentences. I started with the simplest words. Hello, thank you, sorry, please. They looked like nothing, but to me, they were mountains. I whispered them when I was on the bus. I repeated them while cooking rice. I sang them softly while walking to work. At first, it felt silly. Sometimes I laughed at myself. But then I remembered. Every great building begins with one brick. I reminded myself of Thomas Edison, the man who invented the light bulb. He once said, "The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones." Edison failed thousands of times, but he kept experimenting. My light bulb was English, and my small stones were these basic words. The daily fight. Starting was hard. Every morning I had to fight the voice in my head that said, "Stay in bed. Relax. You're not good enough anyway." That voice was strong, but I made a promise. Even if I studied just 10 minutes, I would do it every day. Consistency was my weapon. At night, when my friends went out, I stayed in. I opened my notebook and repeated sentences. Sometimes I fell asleep with the book on my chest. My family didn't understand. They said, "Why work so hard? Just live your life." But deep down, I knew that if I didn't take these steps now, my life would never change. Examples from real lives. When I felt tired, I looked at stories of people who also started small. Take Michael Jordan, the basketball legend. In high school, he was cut from the varsity basketball team. Imagine that. Michael Jordan, the man we now call the greatest, was once told he wasn't good enough. But instead of quitting, he practiced harder than anyone else. He started small, shooting hoops in his backyard for hours. Those small steps built his greatness. Or J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter. She was a single mother, broke, and rejected by publishers many times. But every day she wrote a few pages. Those small steps gave the world one of the most beloved stories ever told. Their success wasn't magic. It was small steps, repeated every day, transforming my mindset. The first steps changed me. I started to believe that English was not impossible. Each new word was a small victory. I wrote today's word at the top of every notebook page. Some days it was hope. Some days it was courage. Some days it was freedom. Slowly, I realized I wasn't just learning English words. I was learning values. I was learning patience, persistence, and self-belief. There were times when I wanted to give up. I looked at my progress and thought, it's too slow. But then I remembered the turtle in the old fable. Slow but steady wins the race. Speed didn't matter. Consistency did. A new kind of courage. After weeks of practicing, I tried something new. I went to a small shop that sold coffee and decided to order in English. My hands were sweating. My voice was low. But I said, "One coffee, please." The shopkeeper looked surprised but gave me the coffee. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't smooth. But I did it. I walked out of the shop with a smile so big it could light up the street. For the first time, I felt the taste of victory. The lesson. Here's the truth. The first steps are the hardest. Your brain resists. Your body resists. People around you don't understand. But if you keep going, small steps will turn into habits. Habits will turn into progress. Progress will turn into transformation. When I look back now, I realize that the most powerful step was not saying thank you or please. The most powerful step was buying that notebook and writing the words, "I will speak English." That was the day my life began to change. Failure has a special taste. It is bitter, heavy, and unforgettable. I tasted it the first time I walked into an English job interview. I had prepared for days. I stayed awake all night writing answers in my notebook. I memorized sentences like they were magic spells. I repeated them again and again, hoping that when the moment came, the words would flow. But inside that interview room, everything changed. The freeze. The manager looked at me kindly and asked the simplest question. "Can you tell me about yourself?" My heart raced. My mind went blank. The sentences I had memorized disappeared like smoke. My lips moved, but no sound came out. I felt my face burn with shame. Seconds passed. The silence was louder than thunder. Finally, I mumbled a few broken words. The manager smiled politely, but I knew the truth. I had failed. I left the room with my head down. Tears filled my eyes, but I forced myself to keep walking. On the street, people were laughing and chatting, but in my heart, there was only silence. The weight of shame. That night, I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling. The same question repeated in my mind. Can you tell me about yourself? Such a simple question. Yet it crushed me. I felt weak. I felt useless. I thought, maybe they are right. Maybe I will never be good at English. Shame is powerful. It tells you to stop. It whispers, you are not enough. That night, shame almost won. Lessons from failure. But failure, if you listen carefully, has another voice. It says, this is not the end. This is the beginning. I remembered the story of Oprah Winfrey. When she was young, she dreamed of becoming a television host. But one of her first bosses told her she was not fit for television. Imagine that. The woman who would later become one of the most powerful voices in America was once told she wasn't good enough. She cried, she suffered, but she didn't quit. Or think of Steve Jobs. He was fired from Apple, the company he himself created. For most people, that would be the end. But for Jobs, failure became fuel. He later returned to Apple and transformed it into one of the most successful companies in history. Their failures didn't destroy them. Their failures built them. My reflection. As I thought about Oprah and Jobs, I asked myself, why am I so afraid of failure? Isn't this just part of the journey? I realized something important. The interview wasn't a final judgment. It was just one test. Yes, I failed, but that failure was also proof that I had tried. Many people never even walk into the room. I did. That alone was progress. I told myself, you lost this battle, but the war is not over. Rising from the fall. The next morning, I picked up my notebook again. My hands were shaking, but I wrote, failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of success. Every time I felt pain, I turned it into fuel. I told myself, if Oprah can rise after rejection, if Jobs can return after being fired, then I can stand again after one bad interview. I practiced harder. I didn't just memorize answers. I started practicing real conversations. I talked to myself in the mirror. I asked myself questions and answered out loud. Sometimes, I recorded my voice and listened, even though it made me cringe. Step by step, the fear began to lose power. The lesson failure hurts, but it also teaches. It teaches you where you are weak. It teaches you how to grow stronger. Without that painful interview, I would never have known what I needed to fix. So here is what I learned. Failure is not your enemy. Comfort is your enemy. If you avoid failure, you also avoid growth. But if you face failure, you open the door to transformation. That interview did not give me a job, but it gave me something greater. It gave me fire. And from that fire, I was ready to rise again. That night after the interview, I sat alone in my small room. The walls felt closer than ever. The silence pressed down on me like a heavy stone. I asked myself two questions again and again. Do you really want this life? Do you want to be weak forever? The answers came clear and sharp. Number, I did not want a life of silence. I did not want a life of fear. I wanted to grow. I wanted to stand tall. I wanted to speak English with courage. That was the turning point. A new decision. I realized that wanting was not enough. Dreaming was not enough. Hoping was not enough. What I needed was action. Daily action. Consistent action. No excuses. I took out my notebook and wrote 3 rules for myself. 1. Practice English every single day. 2. No excuses, no delays. 3. Failure is not the end. It is the teacher. These rules became my new compass, changing my routine. From that day, my mornings changed. I woke up early while the city still slept. With my old headphones, I listened to English podcasts. At first, I understood almost nothing. The voices were fast, the words strange, but I kept listening. Slowly, my ears began to catch patterns, like small lights in the dark. During lunch breaks, I watched short English videos instead of scrolling social media. I wrote down phrases I liked. At night, I opened children's books in English. The words were simple, but they gave me hope. They were like stepping stones across a river, carrying me forward one step at a time. Facing myself. The hardest practice was speaking, not with others, but with myself. I stood in front of the mirror and spoke out loud. At first, I laughed at my own voice. It sounded broken, strange, unnatural. But slowly, something changed. My sentences grew longer. My words flowed better. my confidence began to rise. I remembered Barack Obama's story. Before becoming president, Obama was not a natural speaker. He practiced for years. He once said that he used to rehearse speeches alone, reading them again and again until they felt natural. If even a future president had to practice in the mirror, why should I feel ashamed? Fighting resistance. Still, every day was a battle. There were mornings when my body screamed, "Stay in bed." There were nights when I wanted to relax, to go out with friends, to forget this struggle. But then I remembered a truth. Comfort kills progress. Growth comes only from effort. I looked at the example of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He wakes up before sunrise to train, even when he is tired, even when he doesn't feel like it. That discipline built his body and his career. I told myself, if The Rock can push his body every day, I can push my English every day. Small sparks of hope. After weeks of this new plan, I began to notice small changes. I could follow English songs better. I could understand simple podcast episodes. My sentences in the mirror felt smoother. One evening I realized something powerful. I no longer hated my voice in English. It was not perfect, but it was mine. And it was growing stronger. The lesson. The turning point in life is not a miracle. It is a decision. A line you draw in the sand. Before that line, you are a prisoner of fear. After that line, you are a warrior of change. For me, the interview failure was painful, but it forced me to draw that line. Without it, I would still be dreaming, still be waiting, still be weak. Now, I was no longer just a man who wanted to speak English. I was a man on a mission. And that mission gave me fire. Learning English was not just about books and headphones. It was about people. And people sometimes can be the hardest part of the journey. In India, many young people already spoke English well. They used it in schools, in offices, in cafes. They sounded smart. They sounded modern. Every time I heard them, I felt both inspired and insecure. I wanted to be like them, but I was not there yet. Voices of doubt. When I started practicing seriously, some people supported me. They said, "Good job, Arjun. Keep going." But many others laughed. "Why are you wasting your time?" they asked. "You'll never be good at English. Your accent will always sound funny." Their words cut deeper than any failure. Failure was mine, but insults came from others. It felt like society itself was against me. I remembered what Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Do what you feel in your heart to be right, for you'll be criticized anyway." Her words gave me comfort. Even the strongest people in history faced criticism. Why should I expect my road to be easy, turning pain into fuel? At first, I wanted to fight back. I wanted to argue. But then I realized arguing would not change their minds. Only success would. So I made a new rule. Every insult becomes energy. Every laugh becomes fire. When people mocked me, I didn't answer. I just went home and practiced harder. I whispered new words with more passion. I repeated sentences with more determination. Their doubts became my fuel. This is what Muhammad Ali, the boxing legend, used to do. People laughed at him, said he was too loud, too arrogant. But Ali turned those voices into energy. He trained harder, fought harder, and proved them wrong. One day, he became the greatest. If Ali could turn insults into greatness, I could turn laughter into learning. Feeling alone. Still, it was not easy. Many evenings, I sat alone in my room while my friends went out. They called me boring. They said, "Why do you waste your youth? Come and enjoy life." I smiled, but inside I felt lonely. Sacrifice is painful. It makes you feel like a stranger in your own world. Everyone around you is moving in one direction, but you are walking the other way. That loneliness almost broke me. But then I remembered Martin Luther King Jr. He once said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." If King could stand against a whole society for justice, surely I could stand against a few laughs for English. Small proof. One day, I met a cousin at a family gathering. He mocked me in front of everyone. He said, "Arjun thinks he will become American. Speak something in English, Arjun. Show us." My face turned red. Everyone laughed. My hands shook. But instead of running, I took a deep breath and said a few sentences in English. They were simple, but clear. The laughter stopped. My cousin had nothing to say. It was not a big victory, but it was proof. Society can laugh, but society cannot stop you if you refuse to quit. The lesson. The challenge of society is real. People will doubt you. People will mock you. Sometimes even people you love will try to stop you. But you must remember, they see only who you are today, not who you can become tomorrow. If you let their words control you, your dream will die. But if you use their words as fire, your dream will live. Society will always have something to say. Let them talk. You keep walking. Because in the end, it's not their life. It's yours. Every dream demands a price. And the price of English was sacrifice. I learned this lesson the hard way. In the beginning, I thought I could have everything. Time with friends, long nights on social media, movies, games, and still become fluent. But soon I discovered, life doesn't give you two full plates at the same time. You must put something down to pick something greater up. The first thing I cut was time. My friends loved late-night parties. I loved them too. But I stopped going. Instead, I stayed in my small room with my notebook and a cheap pair of headphones. While they danced, I repeated sentences. While they laughed, I whispered words. At first, it felt painful. It felt like I was missing out on life. But then I remembered Steve Jobs. He once said, "People think focus means saying yes to the thing you've got to focus on. But it really means saying no to the 100 other good ideas." Jobs built Apple by saying no to distractions. I wanted to build my English the same way. Giving up comfort sacrifice is not only about time, it's also about comfort. Sometimes I woke up at 5 a.m. to practice listening before school. My bed felt warm. My body begged for more sleep, but I forced myself to get up. I remembered the words of Jocko Willink, a former Navy SEAL. Discipline equals freedom. If I wanted the freedom to speak, to travel, to dream bigger, I needed discipline now. That meant giving up the soft pillow for the harder road. Every time I pushed myself, I imagined future Arjun. Standing tall, speaking confidently, no longer afraid. That vision gave me strength to leave comfort behind. The hidden pain. But sacrifice has hidden pain too. Some friends left me. They thought I was too serious. They said, "You've changed, Arjun. You're not fun anymore." Their words hurt. For weeks, I felt empty. Was English really worth losing friends? Was the dream worth the loneliness? Then I read about Serena Williams. She trained while others rested. She practiced while others partied. Many people misunderstood her, but in the end, her sacrifice gave her 23 Grand Slam titles. If Serena could give up short-term fun for long-term greatness, why couldn't I? I realized real friends stay, Fake friends leave. And sometimes, loneliness is not punishment. It is preparation. The reward behind sacrifice. Slowly, I began to see results. My listening improved. My sentences became smoother. My confidence grew. Every small victory whispered, "See? It's working. Don't stop now." One evening, I watched an interview with Matthew McConaughey. He said, "The reward is on the other side of discipline." Yes, that was exactly what I was experiencing. Sacrifice was painful at first, but beautiful later. I lost some parties, but I gained progress. I lost some comfort, but I gained confidence. Sacrifice was not really loss. It was an investment. A deeper realization. Here's the truth. Everyone sacrifices something. Some sacrifice their health for comfort. Some sacrifice their dreams for approval. Some sacrifice their future for short-term pleasure. The question is not, will you sacrifice? The question is, what will you sacrifice for? When I looked at it this way, I felt empowered. I was no longer a victim of sacrifice. I was a master of it. I chose my pain so that I could choose my future. This mindset changed everything. The lesson sacrifice will test you. It will take your comfort, your time, sometimes even your relationships. But sacrifice is not your enemy. It is your bridge. Without sacrifice, you stay where you are. With sacrifice, you cross into a bigger life. So remember, if you are not willing to sacrifice for your dream, you will be forced to sacrifice your dream instead. In the middle of sacrifice, I discovered a hidden treasure. Small victories. One day, a tourist stopped me on the street. He asked, "Excuse me, can you tell me the way to the market?" My heart raced. Normally, I would freeze, but this time, I opened my mouth and said, "Yes, go straight," then left. Not perfect, not fluent, but clear enough. The tourist smiled. "Thank you." I walked away with a bigger smile than him. For the first time, English didn't feel like a wall. It felt like a bridge. That night, I wrote in my notebook, "A small victory is still a victory." I remembered Kobe Bryant. He didn't score 81 points in one night by magic. He built it through thousands of small shots in practice. Small wins, repeated daily, created greatness. Each time I understood a song lyric, each time I finished a page of a book, each time I dared to speak in class, it was my version of Kobe's practice shots. At first, English was just survival. I wanted to order food, pass interviews, avoid shame. But soon, English became bigger than that. It became a new dream. With English, I could watch movies without subtitles. I could connect with people across continents. I could understand the world, not through translations, but directly. I thought of Malala Yousafzai, who once said, "One child, one teacher, one book, one pen can change the world." For me, one language, English, was enough to change my world. I started to dream of traveling to London, New York, Sydney. I started to dream of joining an international company, not as a scared candidate, but as a confident professional. The bigger my dream grew, the more energy I had. English was no longer homework. It was hope. But dreams don't erase difficulties. The road was still hard. There were days when I forgot simple words, days when I compared myself to classmates who spoke faster, smoother, better. Days when I felt like a failure all over again. Comparison was poison. It made me blind to my own progress. Then I remembered Theodore Roosevelt's famous words, "Comparison is the thief of joy." So I stopped looking left and right. I looked only at myself yesterday. Was I better than that Arjun? If yes, then I was winning. This mindset freed me. I didn't need to be perfect. I just needed to keep moving. Because progress is not loud. It's quiet. It hides in the little steps you take each day. After months of sweat and sacrifice, came the moment of truth. Another job interview. The manager asked me the same question as before. Can you tell me about yourself? But this time, I didn't freeze. I smiled. I spoke slowly, carefully, but confidently. My name is Arjun. I come from India. I am passionate about learning, and English has given me new confidence to connect with the world. Not perfect, not Shakespeare, but it was me. Authentic, brave, real. The manager nodded. He listened. He respected me. Even before I knew the result, I already felt victorious. Why? Because the old Arjun had died in that room. The boy who was afraid of words was gone. In his place stood a man who dared to speak. That was my breakthrough. Like Nelson Mandela once said, I never lose. I either win or learn. That day, I won. And I had already learned. Now, when I look back, I see more than English. I see life. From 0 sentences to daily conversations. From shame to pride. From fear to courage. English gave me confidence. English gave me freedom. English gave me a new identity. But I also know this. The journey never ends. Growth never stops. If you stop learning, you stop living. So I keep practicing. I keep listening. I keep reading. Not because I am weak, but because I am strong enough to keep going. Muhammad Ali once said, I hated every minute of training, but I said, boy, don't quit. Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion. That is my vision. To suffer a little now, to grow every day, to live the rest of my life, not as a prisoner of fear, but as a champion of courage. This was English A to Z, where English learning meets motivation and life lessons. Remember, each word you learn is more than grammar. It's growth. Each story you hear is not just practice, it's progress. Stay consistent, stay focused, and trust the process. And never forget, your time is your life. Use it, don't waste it. If today's video inspired you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts below. Tell us, what part of this story motivated you the most? Your voice matters, and your journey continues here with us.